Yeah, here's what we're already on in college basketball. I moved some stuff already. Small board, like you said, but we're already on Columbia plus the 2. We're on the under 131 in Marist and Siena. We took Ohio plus the 6. Rider plus the 6.5. Penn at 17, 16.5, and 15.5. So I don't know if someone's not playing or it's just that revenge for getting blown out by 30 to Yale earlier at home. Also, Merrimack -2 and -2.5. Also, Cornell, which I heard Dave talk about before I came on. Cornell at -6, same number. And then Wright State, Milwaukee over 153. So small board, but again, these aren't the kind of games that are getting a lot of attention from recreational bettors. They're probably looking more so into Saturday, especially with today being Valentine's Day. I'm sure a lot of guys are taking it off saying, I'll enjoy time with my family, with my lady. And since it's a small board, no NBA, no NHL, I'm really not missing anything. So I think those guys are really going to be firing away tomorrow, which is why I'm having the steam room on Saturday. But when you're able to take advantage of some of these prices because of that, that's exactly what we did. So hopefully when the dust settles, we'll turn a little profit today and lead into the weekend up money.
Columbia +2, Fairfield +4.5, Siena -1.5, Ohio +5.5, Penn 17.5, getting that's sharp. Cornell -6, Nevada -6, Merrimack -2. Has some fights tomorrow too, so I'm going to throw some of those out for UFC. Yusuf Zalal -425, and I'm going to butcher these names. That's for darn sure. Ismail Bonfin -210 or better. Jose Delgado -325 or better. A lot of chalk. Walter Walker -210 or better. And Jacqueline Cavalcanti -555. That's all sharp UFC. Again, a lot of chalk, which is weird because usually UFC is dominated by sharp dog money.
Spring ball is quite interesting because, as you know, in baseball, a lot of weight is put on starting pitching in baseball. But in spring ball, the starters rarely go past 2 innings. It's just they're just practicing. They don't really care if they win or not. So spring ball is mainly based on bullpens and farm systems because your starters are pulled after 2 innings. It's a bullpen game. It's a backup starters game. And they're really trying to see their young talent, who they're going to bring up and who they're going to leave down. So I have some formulas that I use in spring ball. But overall, the advice is underdogs all the way because the books will overprice good starting pitching who's only going to be in the game for 2 innings. Spring ball, I have a formula that I use for bullpen plus farm system plus starting pitching, and I put that in a little formula, mash it up. And generally, you'll get a lot of underdogs. The Chicago White Sox, definitely the worst team in baseball, have a really good farm system. So they can come up, win quite a bit in spring training. So it's underdogs all the way in the spring. Underdogs all the way. Depending on what book you use, you can find a will the Dodgers win the regular season all-time wins record of 117 wins. And the yes on that is, when I bet it, plus 2,800, but now it's plus 2,000 at the book I use. So if you can find that prop somewhere, it's a really good one because the Dodgers they've improved a lot. Let's put it that way. And last year, they went through the season with a ragtag rotation. Their rotation was some guy named Grove, some guy named Knack, and they had Jack Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Glasnow. Glasnow got injured. Like I said, some guy named Grove and some guy named Knack basically got him to 98 wins last season. This season, their rotation is Glasnow, Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, and Sasaki. That's quite an upgrade for the rotation, where the hitting has really not been degraded much at all because they were able to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez. So I think, when you're this good, when you're historically good, you have obviously the World Series to look forward to, but when you start winning, if you have 60 wins at spring break, you start talking, hey, we can break a record here. And I think that's what's going to happen this year. Ohtani, the rumors are he's not going to start pitching until May or June, or maybe even after the All-Star break, but he will be pitching. But even if Ohtani doesn't pitch, the Dodgers have a 7-man deep rotation. I mean, Glasnow, they signed Blake Snell. They have Sasaki. They have Grove and Knack from last year's rotation. They have Derek May. They have Clayton Kershaw if they want to use them in middle rotation. They just signed the number 2 closer in all of baseball, Tanner Scott from the Padres. Yeah. I mean, they're just loaded. Kirby Yates, they just signed 3 days ago. Kirby Yates is very underrated as a middle relief too. I mean, this team is just incredible. Plus 2,000. Take the Dodgers to win the most regular season games in the history of MLB at 117. Great future bet. They're just loaded to the hilt with talent. World Series is all about pitching. So if you have a 7-deep rotation, the second best closer in all of baseball, and a great, they got Gatorall, they got Kirby Yates, tons of middle relief, and their batting hasn't been dented almost at all since last season. Actually, they've added a couple of small pieces to their hitting. So the Dodgers to win the World Series at plus 300, I think, is excellent value. So these future bets are great bets to put, I wouldn't say pizza money, but, $100 on each one, and, $100 at plus 2,000, nice little payout if the Dodgers win 117 games or if they win the World Series. It's a nice little payout. Now we'll talk about another team that gets talked about a lot, which is the Yankees. They just signed Max Fried from the Atlanta Braves. One of the Braves' best pitchers, they're probably their second best pitcher, and he's going to slot into the number 2 in the rotation behind Garrett Cole for the Yankees. But the future I like for him is to get over 155 strikeouts. So his season strikeout is 155.5, and this is why I like it. Over his career, Fried averages 6.07 strikeouts per start. So if he goes per average, if he gets 26 starts this season, he should go over 155 strikeouts. 4 of his last 6 seasons, he has gone over that. And the odds for this is minus 110. So Max Fried over 155 strikeouts is my last future for MLB. Minus 110, great number. This number may have moved since I bet it, but anything 160 or less, I would go the over on Max Fried's season strikeouts.
Rafael Estevan versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm going to take this over 2.5 rounds. You can take it to go the distance. Rafael Estevan's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. He may be a little bit faster. He hasn't fought in almost a year and a half, but he's got a pretty good ground game. But he made his UFC debut, and he controlled Charles Johnson on the ground for all 3 rounds, but he couldn't get the finish. And then in round 3, started to get a little tired, and it was pretty obvious after the first round he did not have that finishing ability in him. Now we go to Jesus Aguilar. He's like Rudy. He's undersized, but you know what he's got, Prez? He's got that dog in him. He's got that dog in him. We all love, you know what? Here. In honor of Jesus Aguilera, we got that dog in him, Prez. This guy This guy took a short notice fight against Tatsu Taira. He got submitted and he come back and he won 3 UFC fights in a row. Last fight, he was a big underdog against Nickel, the Australian, and he goes in there and he chokes the guy out in the first round. Jesus Aguilar is going to fight for your money. He will not give up. He will not tap to this Rafael Estevan. I think this is going to be a long fight that takes place mostly on the ground, and I don't think Estevan is going to get the finish. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus Aguilera pushes this guy to the judges, and it makes it a really, really close fight. But Estevan is going to have the physical abilities, but Jesus Aguilera, he's got that dog, man. He's got that dog. This guy is going to push this to the limit. I'm going to take Rory McIlroy under 71.5 for his score today. This tees off in a couple hours. Here's the thing, Prez. It was raining yesterday. It was just awful, awful conditions. The weather's a little bit better today. There's no rain. It's touch windy, 10 miles an hour, little bit colder. But the big thing is course is dried out just a little bit, and he shot 72 yesterday. He had 2 birdies and 2 bogeys. He only hit 50% of fairways. I expect that to be a little bit better today. He only had 1 birdie out of 4 par 5s. I would expect them to get at least 2 today. And he was only 52nd out of 72 players approach to green. I expect that to be a little bit better. And here's the big thing. Preferred lies today. So when they hit the ball and it lands in the mud, they're allowed to pick it up and clean the ball and put the ball back down in the perfect position.
Well,
it's so
wait a
lame.
minute.
It's a
Time
lame
out.
rule. It's a lame
Time
rule.
out.
Yeah, he's only one shot behind the leader after round one, and it's not an intimidating leaderboard at all. You got Sam Horsfield, Carlos Ortiz, Dustin Johnson, who's given up, and Abraham Answer that's all around him. He's one of the best guys up near the top right now, and he finished third here last year. They only have 2 more rounds. I actually stayed up and watched him play. He looked really good. You can get this at minus 140. Joaquin Neiman is just him and John Rahm, Tyrell Hatton. They're just cream of the crop here. So Neiman got off to a great start yesterday. I expect him to continue that. I think he might be live to win this thing. But top 5 finish at minus 140. Yeah, I don't see him dropping too many shots. I had my best NHL season last year when I discovered the beauty of taking players to not have a point. And this goes to a theory that I have in sports betting. It's hard for teams and athletes to be great every single day. It's easy for bad teams and bad players to be bad all the time. It's easier to bet on things to not happen. However, our mindset is we want things to happen. We want good things to happen. So we're more naturally inclined to go for overs. If you want the dopamine rush, you're taking overs. If you want something exciting, you're taking the overs. If you want to make money, you want to build bankrolls, you're looking for unders. Most of my player props that I've been doing are unders. There's very, very few scenarios where I'll take an over, but if I do take an over, I'm looking at low numbers. I'm not looking at the NBA player that's points, rebounds, and assists is like 40. I'm looking at a guy to make 1 or 2 3-pointers. I'm looking at really, really low numbers. The NHL players, I'm looking for guys to not have a point. I'm looking for guys under. When I'm looking at UFC, Prez, I'm looking at fighters to fade. I'm not necessarily looking at fighters to win. Who are the bad fighters that I can bet against? The tough weather in golf, Hideki Matsuyama, I'm looking for bad things to happen. I look at player props kind of like vacations. Yeah. If on your last 5 vacations, how many of them were perfect? None of them. Something always goes a little bit wrong. There are way more scenarios to hit an under than there are in the overs, but it's tough to get in that mindset. But yes, unders, if you commit to just betting unders and you look at players to fade, fighters to fade, golfers to fade, teams to fade, you're going to find that your bankroll is going to grow exponentially.